So Trae Young is a excellent talent, no doubt about it. Right? This is a guy who is double digits in assists and go get you 30 on any given night. He's 24 years old. He's undersized at 6'1", 164 pounds, a bit of a defensive liability. But there is still a lot of talks about him and the Lakers. He's been on the Lakers' radar for some time. That's been no secret. Trae Young, there have been lots of talks about him wanting out of Atlanta, and the Lakers are his destination. That's where he wants to go. If he becomes available, the Lakers will absolutely try to go get him. Absolutely. I mean, you can count on it, right? Because the Lakers, that's what they like to do. They like to get the big names. They like to get the big star. And Trae Young, personality-wise, absolutely fits the Lakers. And he's got that star power. He's got everything that makes sense for the Lakers, except for his type of play. In my opinion, I think the Lakers should avoid Trae Young at all costs. I think you're better off sticking with Austin Reeves and D'Angelo Russell. I think D'Angelo Russell is the better fit because he doesn't have to have the ball in his hands constantly to be effective. Trae Young is high usage. He can play off the ball. He has played off the ball. But D'Lo was ridiculously efficient off the ball and very good for the Lakers, right? Him and Anthony Davis's relationship was fantastic. Their connection. One of the best plays in all of basketball last year was the D'Lo AD pick and roll, right? It's why I was surprised that they didn't run it more. Austin Reeves and his ability to play on the ball but also play off the ball, I think is very valuable. These two guys are very complementary, right? And the Lakers want Austin Reeves to play point guard more. And Austin Reeves has expressed and talked about how he wants to play point guard more. I did a video about Trae Young and the Lakers before, and the more that I think about it, the more that I think the Lakers should just stay away from Trae Young. If he becomes available again, the Lakers are absolutely going to go try to pursue him. But I don't think he's worth blowing up the roster for, and I don't think he makes us that much better. Right? I think what Austin Reeves and D'Lo can provide would be more than what Trae Young would provide. And with LeBron James, I don't know how well that's going to work. The idea makes sense, right? LeBron wants to play off the ball more. Trae Young can handle those duties, be the playmaker, all that. But will LeBron actually do that? For one, he did it a little bit last year, right? We saw him do that. But he did it for Austin Reeves. He wasn't willing to do it for Russell Westbrook. He wasn't willing to do it for anybody else. He did it for Austin Reeves because he believes and trusts Austin Reeves and his IQ and whatnot. And him and Austin Reeves have a really good relationship, and they play really well off of each other. But would he be willing to do that for Trae Young? Right? The other thing is the idea of like Trae Young being, a high volume 3-point shooter that can knock it down and just take over games. And when he catches fire, he catches fire. Right? He's actually a better 3-point shooter the more threes he takes. Like, as weird as that sounds. So when he averages about 6 3-point attempts per game, he's about 33% from 3. But when he averages 8 or more, he's like 37 to 38% from 3. Which is crazy, right? Like, you would think, but it's because he's such a, once he's a hot, he's a vacuum scorer, right? Like, when he catches fire, he's on fire and he keeps going. And the idea is like, okay, you have him, LeBron, and AD, like that would be great. Lakers have the size, they have the defense to kind of mask Trae Young. The idea, I get. I just don't think it will work as great as the paper makes it seem. And I don't think it'll work that much better than D'Lo and Reeves with Vando, LeBron, and AD. Also, D'Lo is bigger. He's capable of making the same type of moves and plays. I mean, D'Lo is a 17-6 guy, right? And I get that's not 27-10 like Trae Young, but D'Lo also doesn't have the ball as much. He doesn't need the ball as much. He's not taking as many high volume shots as Trae Young is, right? Like Trae Young averages like 20 field goal attempts per game, right? Like is he going to get that type of volume with the Lakers? Probably not. D'Lo is more efficient. I'm not saying D'Lo is the better player, but I think he's the better fit. We've seen it work. D'Lo averages 13 shot attempts per game to Trae Young's 20. And if you adjust for that, D'Lo would average more than Trae Young because of D'Lo's efficiency. If you gave D'Lo, again, on 13 shot attempts, he's averaging 17.4 points per game for the Lakers last year. That's what he averaged. For Minnesota, right, he shot 13 and a half field goals per game and averaged 17.9, just under 18 points for Minnesota. And it's because of his efficiency. He shot almost 42% from three for the Lakers. He shot almost 50% from the field total. He shot 55.5% from 2-point range. He is a legit 3-level scorer. I think he provides everything that you're going to be looking for from Trae Young. It's just not the flashy name. D'Lo, we know is capable of going off for 30. He did it for the Lakers last year. I just think the assets you'd have to give up for Trae Young and the type of player that he is, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. Again, I'm not saying Trae Young isn't a great player. I'm not saying that it might not work, right? It very well could. They could trade for Trae Young and that could be the missed piece and they win the next 3 NBA championships. If I could get a crystal ball and see the future, I would do that tomorrow. Whatever you want. Like if you told me that you could trade the entire roster outside of Austin Reeves, Anthony Davis, and LeBron James and get Trae Young, and those four with like a bunch of scrubs would win you an NBA championship, I'd do that tomorrow. The reality is it's probably not how it's going to work and how it's going to happen. And you're probably losing Austin Reeves, right? Like, again, like what is the package going to entail? Like, would Atlanta want D'Lo, Gabe Vincent, and Rui? No, they're probably going to want, Austin Reeves, Rui, and like Max Christie and stuff like that. Right? Like, the only way I think the Lakers could get Trae Young without losing Austin Reeves would be if Trae Young just says, I'm going to Lakers and nowhere else. That's the only place I'm going. And if you don't send me there, I'll retire from the game of basketball. That's the only way I see that happen. Because the problem is even if at some point, let's say this year, he says, I want out. Atlanta has him for at least another 2 years after this year. He doesn't have an early termination option until 2026, 2027. So they could, if a team is willing to take on Trae Young for 2 years, it doesn't matter. They could just trade him. So Trae Young wouldn't have a world of leverage. And what, is he just not going to play the game of basketball? Of course he is. Right? Like, it just comes down to, if Trae Young did that, would it scare teams away? Would it be like a Dame situation, right? Where like the Miami Heat are basically the only team. Dame's made it very clear, and therefore it's basically scared off all other teams. That's the only way I really see it happening. But even then, like, I'd rather have Rui. I'm not saying Rui's the better player, but I think Rui is a bigger need and fit. I don't think we need another undersized guard. I would, like, if we could go get Kyrie, I would do it. Not trading Reeves, but I would go get Kyrie because he's that big of an impact player. We know he works with LeBron, right? And I think him and Anthony Davis would work post that, right? Maybe Trae Young works, right? Maybe it makes more sense later on down the road, right? Because like in 2 years, right? Like let's fast forward here a little bit, right? In 2 years, Trae Young would be on his final year, or he could be on his final year of the contract if he exercises his early termination. So he could be on his final year of his contract, so he'd have more power, more leverage, and could kind of control things more. And after that, and at that point, D'Lo and LeBron James would be off the books. And if LeBron says, "Hey, I want out. I'm going to, go play with my son, or I'm going to retire," or something like that, then maybe if he's the only one that's available, right? He's the best option available, and it's like, well, all you have is Christie, Reeves, Vando, like maybe we go make the play for Trey. But even then, the Lakers believe Max Christie is going to be the next thing, right? We've gotten countless reports about it. Lakers are super high on Max Christie. Max Christie looks like he's going to be the next big. I mean, the dude was ridiculous in Summer League. Summer League, put it in perspective, that's fine. Trae Young is 24, so that's good. Even in 2 years, he'd only be 26, 27. But if Max Christie really does evolve, then what? Right? Like, I would rather go with Austin Reeves, an emerged Max Christie, Jared Vanderbilt, Rui Hachimura, and Anthony Davis. Then now you're clunky because you got Trae Young, Max Christie's super good, and you're not benching Austin Reeves. So what, are you going to move Max Christie to the 3? Yeah, you could, because he's like 6'6", 6'7", but he'd probably be better suited as the 2 guard. If LeBron comes back, right? Like, let's say LeBron's really good still in 2 years, which I fully expect him to be, and he's like, the only way I'll re-sign is if you go get Trae Young, then maybe, right? Because it's like, do we really want to lose LeBron, especially if we were like coming off a championship or something like that? I just think it's the circumstances. Like, if the Lakers went and traded for Trae Young, depending on what they gave up, but if they went and traded for Trae Young, I'm not going to be upset. I'm not going to be mad. I'm not going to be like, what are the Lakers doing? I'll support Trae Young. I'm going to be all for him. I'll be his biggest fan. But I think the Lakers should avoid it. Right? Like, now, obviously, there's all the talks about Giannis and, does Brandon Ingram come? Does Triple J come at some point? Austin Reeves is over at Team USA, just recruiting right now, right? Like, does Embiid want out at some point, right? Like, or does he kind of weather storm? And then, like, obviously, if you get somebody like that, if you could do something like that, then sure. Absolutely, it's a no-brainer. But, like, if all else fails and Trae Young is, like, the default or the consolation prize, it's not a bad consolation prize to have, especially post-LeBron. That's why I'm saying maybe it makes more sense for Trae Young to be a Laker 2 years from now if LeBron leaves, because it's like, okay, you'd have Austin Reeves. It would be good to be a playmaker, to get that playmaker and that guy that, could divvy it up better, right, and provide you those 10 assists a game. And also, Trae Young, I think, could be more impactful and more effective because he could be on the ball more and kind of be more higher usage than he would be next to LeBron. It's clunky at times with Murray and Trae Young. And LeBron is as high used as it gets. So I don't see the Trae Young LeBron working that great. Like, could Trae Young just focus on being a scorer and give you 30 a game? Absolutely. But if he's giving up 25 a game and you're losing his playmaking because he's not on the ball that much, because he's not on the ball that much, like, comes a problem. He also is super high turnover prone. I mean, he averages 10 assists per game. He also averages 4 turnovers per game. That's ridiculous. Right? So, like, you have a guy who, he's not very efficient. He's really not. Or at least last year. He's had efficient years. Let me rephrase that a little bit. Right? Last year, he shot 43% from the field. 43%. Shot 33.5% from 3. He only shot 47.6% from 2-point range and had an EFG of 58.5. D'Lo was more efficient in every category. By far. D'Lo shot 55.5% from 2-point range. Shot 41.4% from 3-point range. Had an EFG of 58%. The guy was more efficient in every way. They shot similar free throw percentage. again, Trae Young has had years, right? The year earlier, previous to that, 2021, 2022, he averaged 46% from the field total. He shot 38.2% from three, 51.2% from two, and then had an EFG of 53.6. And it was his best year. And guess what? Even in his best year, D'Lo was still more efficient in every category than Trae Young's best year. It's not the year that he had the most points. It's second most points. He had 28.4. In 2019-2020, he averaged just under 30, 29.6. But again, he wasn't as efficient. He was close. He was 50% from two as opposed to 51%. He had an EFG of 51.9 as opposed to 53.6, right? So it was close. He was 36% from three as opposed to 38. So he wasn't that far off, but he wasn't ultra efficient, like, oh my gosh, like where D'Lo can provide you more for less. I'm not huge on the Trae Young thing. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? Agree with me? Disagree with me? Somewhere in between? How do you feel? Whatever thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. Let me know down in the